We are a little over a month away from Selection Sunday, so in today's video, I wanted to look at ESPN's Bracketology by Joe Lunardi and make my predictions if this was the bracket for the upcoming NCAA tournament. But before we jump into the Bracketology, if you enjoy the content, please consider dropping a like on the video and subscribing to the channel. And now, let's jump into it. So taking a look at the updated Bracketology, the top overall seed currently is Arizona, and that's not a surprise at all. They have the best resume in the country. They're undefeated in one of the best leagues in the country in the Big 12, and have honestly just looked like the best team so far. Last team in currently, he has Ohio State, so Bruce Thornton and the Buckeyes getting into the NCAA tournament, and then the first team out is Cal. Mark Madsen has done an amazing job at Cal so far. I did not think they would be this good this season, but honestly, they have just blown away my expectations, so it's really cool to see them fighting for the bubble right now. If we're looking at the bracket, we can see our one seeds are Arizona and Michigan. Then we also have UConn and Duke. Some movement we had recently in the Bracketology. You can see Nebraska up to a 2 seed, Utah State, Indiana both up, Virginia's up, North Carolina's up, Iowa's up, Gonzaga down here dropping to a 3 seed after that upset loss to Portland, which is honestly definitely a seed line bump. They could end up being a 4 seed, but right now he has them as a 3 seed. Texas A&M goes down after their loss in conference. BYU down after that upset loss against Oklahoma State. Michigan State down after their loss on the road at Minnesota. Then you have teams like Santa Clara, one of my favorite teams in the mid-majors. They're in it, and they're at an 11 seed. You got Kansas up to the 3 seed. NC State's up as well. So a lot of movement in this week's Bracketology. Looking at the bubble real quick, last 4 byes are St. Mary's, Georgia, and then both the California teams and UCLA and USC. Last 4 in, Miami, a really good team. We got Texas, New Mexico, and then Ohio State, as I mentioned. Forced 4 out, California, San Diego State, Virginia State, and Oklahoma State. I actually think Oklahoma State has a really good argument to be in the tournament right now. That was a big win against BYU. If they can get 1 or 2 more big wins in the Big 12, I do think they'll be there. Then you got Seton Hall in the next 4 out, a team that we thought might be in the tournament out of the Big East. They're really one of the only hope for Big East to have more than 2, maybe 3 teams in is Seton Hall, Missouri, TCU, and Baylor. So a couple of different Big 12 schools on the outside, but looking in, so they could get more bids. And then looking at the multi-big conferences, we have Big 10 with 11, SEC with 10, ACC with 8, Big 12 with 7, West Coast with 3 now, so that's Gonzaga, St. Mary's, and Santa Clara. You got Big East with 3, and then Mountain West with 2. All right, so jumping into the bracket, we're going to start with the West region and go region by region until we get our final 4 teams, and then we'll make our predictions from there. So up first, we have Arizona versus Merrimack, and of course, in this one, I'm taking Arizona. As I mentioned in the intro, Arizona's looking like the best team in the country right now. You got Koa Pete, Braden Burries, Jaden Bradley, one of the most clutch players. Also, Motias Krivas, Toby Iwaka, Anthony Del Orso, and more. Dwayne Arisoda, I don't want to forget to mention him. This team has just so many weapons, and they can beat you in a lot of different ways, and so I just don't see Merrimack having any chance against Arizona. Utah State versus Indiana. I really like Utah State, one of my favorite mid-majors out of the Mountain West. Mason Falslev, one of the best players at the mid-major level, but right now I'm kind of on the Indiana train. Tucker DeVries, Lamar Wilkerson, and the rest of the squad. I think Darian DeVries in his first season has done really well with Indiana, so I'm going to go with the Hoosiers. Alabama versus Liberty. I really like this matchup. Liberty's a really fun team to watch, but I think Alabama in this one would get the edge. Then you got Virginia versus California Baptist. Ryan Odom's first season with the Cavaliers has been a success and more, honestly. This team has so many weapons. Chance Mallory, Tice DeRitter, Malik Thomas has looked really good at times as well. I don't think California Baptist can compete, so we're going to go with Virginia. Clemson versus Miami, Ohio. Clemson, honestly, better than I thought. Brad Brownell, honestly, just have to stop doubting him at times. He has been really consistent with the Tigers. Then you got Miami, Ohio, one of the best stories in all of college basketball starting the season. Undefeated, has been really good. Peter Suter, Ian Almer, 2 really good players that I think you should watch if you haven't already. So I'm actually going to go with the upset. Give me Miami, Ohio. Pretty impressive that they're at the 11 seed right now for Joe Lunardi, so it's cool to see that. Gonzaga versus Portland State. Gonzaga, as I mentioned, just took that big loss to Portland. I think the Braden Huff injury is really hurting them, but I just don't think Portland State has any chance against them, so give me Gonzaga. We got Kentucky versus USC. Kentucky starting to find their footing, really slow start to the season. I think injuries have played a big factor as well. USC, if this team was fully healthy, I think I would be going with the Trojans. Chad Baker-Mazara has looked great. Elijah Arenas is back and playing, but they just have a lot of injuries. It's also impressive that Eric Musselman has them in the NCAA tournament still. They won Maui, so that's impressive, but again, a lot of injuries to go around for the Trojans, so I'm going with Kentucky. Nebraska, UT Martin. Nebraska, one of the other really good stories this season. This could be the first time that they win an NCAA tournament game, and they're all the way up at a 2 seed by Joe Lunardi, so I have to go with the Cornhuskers, giving me Nebraska to advance. So now we got Arizona versus Indiana, the 1 versus the 9 seed. I think it'd be a good game. I do think Indiana can stay with Arizona because we've seen UConn stay with Arizona when they were down 2 of their best players. I think Indiana has a really good team, but I got to go with the Wildcats to advance. So give me Arizona. Moving on to the Sweet 16. Then we got Alabama versus Virginia. This is just 2 completely different styles of play. Virginia, really good on the defensive end, honestly better than we've seen on the offensive end by most Virginia teams. But then you got Alabama, just run and gun. I think Virginia might be a little lean to stay with Alabama. I'm also going to be trusting LeBaron Violin, who I think should be the SEC Player of the Year right now. So I'm going with the Crimson Tide. Miami, Ohio against Gonzaga. This could be a really good matchup. Again, Miami, Ohio, one of the best stories, but I'm still going with the Zags. But although if Braden Huff is still injured and not able to play in the NCAA tournament, this could change my opinion a lot. But right now I'm projecting him to be back. Then you got Kentucky versus Nebraska. I really think this is a tough decision between the two because I really like the way Kentucky's playing right now. But also Nebraska, one of the better stories. They are just really solid on the offensive end, and then you got Kentucky with all the talent. I really like Nebraska, but I'm actually going to go with the upset. Give me Kentucky to move on. I think this team is trending in the right direction, but we'll see with the rest of the SEC play how that holds out for the Wildcats. But I'm going to go with the upset, 7-2. Give me Kentucky to move on. It's weird to say Kentucky's an upset over Nebraska, but with how the season's played out, that's just where we're at. Then we're in the Sweet 16. We have Arizona versus Alabama. I really love this matchup. Again, LeBaron Violin versus Jaden Bradley, 2 really good players at the point guard position. You got the matchup between Braden Burries and Aiden Holloway. You got the big man down low. Koa Pete looks great. Charles Bediako, is he going to be able to play? There's a lot of uncertainty with his future right now, just with all the different court rulings and different things. So I'm sticking with Arizona. It's hard to go against Arizona right now with how they've played. Then we got Gonzaga versus Kentucky. Honestly, I think if we saw this game, I really think I would be going with Kentucky right now. Just the Zags that lost to Portland opened my eyes to a lot. I know they've played before, but it just feels like right now I'd have to go with Kentucky. And having Kentucky in my Elite Eight is a little scary, but that's where we're at with this bracket and how it's shaping up. Arizona versus Kentucky, though. Again, I cannot go against Arizona right now. I have to give Arizona the nod heading to the Final Four. Moving down to the South region, we have UConn as our number 1 seed, and they're either going to be taking on Harvard or Bethune-Cookman. Harvard, Robert Hinton, really good guard that you need to go and watch for the Crimson. A really fun matchup here, but I got to go with UConn. Although I don't know if UConn's going to be a 1 seed after that loss to St. John's. That could bump them down to a 2 seed. Not the worst loss, but with the Big East just not being that strong, I don't know if they're actually going to stay on the 1 line. But for right now, I got the Huskies advancing to the 2nd round. Then you have Texas A&M versus Wisconsin. Really good matchup. Big Ten versus SEC. Texas A&M was leading the SEC for a while before they took that loss out Alabama. A really close game. Wisconsin, the team that knocked off Michigan. So I think both of these teams have a lot to be playing for. I'm actually going to be going with Wisconsin on this one. Nick Boyd, John Blackwell, what I saw in that game against Michigan, if they have that same type of performance in March Madness, this is a team that could go on a run, I really think. Greg Gard has a really good squad around them as well, and Guards win in March. So I'm going to be picking Wisconsin to advance over the Aggies. We got BYU versus Stephen F. Austin. BYU sliding a bit, losing, I think, 3 out of their last 4. Just AJ DeBanza has been solid. Richie Saunders, Robert Wright, but really don't have anything outside of those three when it comes to the offensive end. Yeah, Kaba Keita and Kennard Davis, who are good as well, but when it comes to people off the bench, they're missing a lot. BYU, I think, is a team that could be volatile and lose in the first round, honestly, but I do think AJ DeBanson would be willing this team past Stephen F. Austin, so give me the Cougars. You got Vanderbilt versus North Dakota State. Vanderbilt, another good story in college basketball this season. Tyler Tanner, I have him on my NBA draft big board of top 30 prospects. I think he's been great. They have a really good team around him. Devin McLaughlin, Tyler Nickel. I just don't think North Dakota State has the players to be going with them. Arkansas versus Santa Clara. Santa Clara, really cool to see them in this projection right now by Joe Lunardi. I think they have a chance over Arkansas, but Arkansas, I truly believe, one of the most talented teams in the entire country. Darius Acuff, really underrated freshman guard. I think Carter Knox, he can, if he steps up a little more, like he has the potential to be great. Trevin Brazile, Malik Ewan, just the entire squad, I think it's really good. If they can put the pieces together like they did last March and make a run, I think John Calipari has a team that could make it to a second weekend. So give me Arkansas. Purdue versus Austin Peay. Purdue, another team that's been sliding recently. Again, this team on the offensive end, fantastic. But when it comes to their defense at times, like, we just don't know what we're going to get. I don't think Austin Peay is going to win, though. Give me Purdue. NC State versus UCLA. Honestly, I would have said UCLA maybe a week ago, but NC State, like what I have been seeing from this team recently, Will Wade's got this team playing at an extremely high level. I think they're going to be making a run for the ACC, maybe not the regular season, but they definitely are a dark horse to win the ACC tournament. I love what Will Wade's done his first season with the Wolfpack, so give me NC State. And then Houston versus Navy. I got to go Houston in this one. So really chalky in the first round, but let's get to the Sweet 16, see if we have any upsets there. So UConn versus Wisconsin. The Huskies I've held firm as one of the best teams in the country. I even think with that St. John's loss, I think that said more about St. John's and less about UConn, although how they handled the pressure scared me a little bit, but I don't think Wisconsin has enough to stay with them, so give me UConn. BYU versus Vanderbilt. Oh, I think this would be such a great matchup. AJ DeBanson versus Tyler Tanner. You got NBA draft prospects going at it. I'm going to stick with AJ DeBanson, see if he can do some heroics and get back to another game against UConn. So give me BYU in that matchup. Arkansas versus Purdue. As I just said, I think Arkansas, one of the more talented teams. Purdue is actually my pick to win it all. The way that defense is playing, though, really scares me for Purdue. I don't know what we're going to get out of them, so I'm actually going to be picking the Razorbacks to upset Purdue, make it to the second weekend again. Then you got NC State versus Houston. Houston could be a dark horse this year, and it's weird to say about a 2 seed, but not enough people are talking about Kelvin Sampson and the Cougars. You got really good freshmen, Kingston Flemings, Chris Sinak Jr., along with solid players that were national runner-ups last season in Milo Suzanne, Emmanuel Sharp, and JoJo Tugler. So I think Houston would be getting the better of Will Wade, but honestly, that would be a really good defensive matchup to watch between the two. So in the Sweet 16, we got UConn versus BYU, Arkansas versus Houston. UConn versus BYU, I'm going to be going with the Huskies again. I just don't think BYU, especially in a tournament where you don't necessarily need a lot of guys, but I think you need more than 5, and right now it's kind of looking like that's all that BYU has. I'm going to be going with UConn. And then we have Arkansas versus Houston going at each other. This would be a really good game. Again, I think Coach Cal versus Kelvin Sampson going at each other, the 6 versus the 2 seed. I could see Arkansas winning this, but I am going to stick with Houston, so I am going to end up with a 1 and a 2 seed in my Elite 8. But then when it comes to who's winning this matchup and making it to the Final Four, I would have picked UConn a while ago, but Houston right now I think is playing a bit better, so I'm picking Houston to make it to the Final Four. So we're going to have an Arizona versus Houston matchup on this side of the bracket in the Final Four. Moving on over to the other side of the bracket, we have the Midwest region where we see Michigan as the number 1 seed. And obviously in this game, I'm going with the Michigan Wolverines over UMBC or NC Central. I don't think Michigan's going to have any problems with any 16 seed they face. And honestly, at this point, they look like they are destined for one of those number 1 seeds. Then we have Auburn versus SMU. This is a matchup between two teams that are actually really similar. SMU out of the ACC, Auburn out of the SEC. Really, both teams are predominantly offensive-minded. They're both top 20 when it comes to KenPom and offensive ranking. Then when it comes to the defensive side of things, they're around 70 to 75, both of them. So really, I think it just comes down to the talent and the players that you have. Auburn also has first-year head coach Bruce Pearl's son, Stephen Pearl. SMU, Andy Enfield. I'm actually going to be going with the 9/8 in this one. Boopy Miller, one of the best guards in the country. Honestly, he's looked great so far for the Mustangs this year. Tahad Pettifer hasn't played up to what he's been, so give me SMU over Auburn. Then we got North Carolina over Belmont. Belmont, another one of my dark horses for a mid-major team that could make a little bit of noise and make an upset in the first round. I think North Carolina, for me, what scares me the most is they have one of the most dominant front courts in the country in Caleb Wilson and with Henry Vasar, but that backcourt, I do not trust them right now, like at all. Seth Trimble's really the only guy back there that I have some trust in, but even then, he's not a guy that is a needle mover for me. Belmont, honestly, a really fun team to watch. They're top 50 in offensive efficiency, but the defense is a little iffy. I'm going to be picking the Tar Heels, but I think it's actually going to be a pretty close matchup if these two were to face off. Then you have Texas Tech versus UC Irvine. Tech, when healthy, and if they have everyone, they are one of the best teams in the country. Christian Anderson, JT Toppin, maybe the best duo in the entire country. Lawan Watts is coming on as late. Donovan Atwell is an absolute flamethrower. I don't think UC Irvine has the guys to stay with them, so give me the Red Raiders. Then we have Louisville versus either New Mexico or Ohio State. Louisville, one of those teams that are pretty volatile, honestly, with their three-point shooting. Like, if they are hitting, as we saw against, like, Kentucky and Indiana, like, they are one of the toughest teams to beat just with the amount of threes that they shoot, their fast-paced offense. Michael Brown Jr., a really good freshman guard. Ryan Conwell has looked great as well. Then you have Ohio State, who I think would beat New Mexico. I really like Bruce Thornton, and they got some guys around him. I think it'd be a really close game, but I'm still going to be picking Louisville in this one, but I think it would be a really tough matchup if they were to face off against the Buckeyes. Then we got Florida versus Winthrop. I love Florida right now. I think they have turned a corner. Backcourt's playing better. Boogie Flan, Xavier Lee are finally catching their stride. Urban Clavzar has been really big for them from the three-point range, and then Ruben Chinyulu has honestly been the difference maker from this team. He's scoring a lot more, and those rebounds, I mean, he's a double-double machine, just an absolute beast on the interior. I think they have one of, if not the best front courts in the country, so I'm going with the Gators. Then we have Iowa versus St. Mary's. Iowa, really, it's Bennett Sturts and then the rest of the team. Ben McCollum in his first year with the Hawkeyes, getting them to the NCAA tournament after what this team has turned into the past couple of years, I think is incredible. But I really like Randy Bennett and St. Mary's. Paulius Morauskas, a guy that you need to keep your eye on. He has been awesome. Actually could make a run as an All-American out of the WCC with the Gales. So give me St. Mary's to get a little bit of an upset over Iowa. I love Bennett Sturts, so I wouldn't be surprised if they won this game. But give me St. Mary's. Then we have Iowa State over Wright State. I don't think this would be too much of an issue with what we've seen from Iowa State so far. That Cincinnati loss that the Cyclones have is a little concerning, but right now I still got to go with Iowa State moving on. Now, getting to the next round, we have Michigan versus SMU in our first matchup at the round of 32 in the Midwest region. I think it's no surprise I'm going with Michigan in this one. Yaxel Lindenborg and co. continue to move Dusty May, his best team since he's been at Michigan now in his second year. I think this is one of the best teams in the country, and honestly just can't see them not getting to the second weekend of this tournament right now. Then we have North Carolina versus Texas Tech. The Caleb Wilson JT Toppin matchup will be really fun to watch. He also might be going up against Henry Vasar, which could limit him a little bit on the offensive end, but I just don't think they have the guards to stay with Christian Anderson. I think that pick and roll with him and JT Toppin would give North Carolina, the Tar Heels, some trouble, so give me Texas Tech. Louisville versus Florida. This is a matchup that I think would be really good. It's complete opposite styles. Louisville gets everything from the perimeter, it seems, while Florida gets everything in the paint. But I have to stick with the Florida Gators in this one. Again, one of my favorite teams to watch as of right now in college basketball. I think they're trending in the right direction at the right time, and I believe Todd Golden has a squad that can get him back to the Final Four and maybe win another national title. Then we have St. Mary's versus Iowa State. I'm a little back and forth on this one, but Iowa State, Joshua Jefferson honestly looks like one of the best players in the country right now. I think he's being a little underrated. As long as Tamin Lipsey stays healthy, this team has a guard that can take them far in March. Killian Torrey, another freshman guard that you should keep your eye out on because he's been great. And Milan Momcilovic, best shooter in the country, honestly. Like, they are stacked at every single position, have a really good trio in Lipsey, Momcilovic, and Joshua Jefferson, so I have to go with the Cyclones. Now we got Sweet 16 matchup, Michigan versus Texas Tech. I think this would be an incredible matchup. Michigan obviously has the better front court, but in the back court, I really like what Texas Tech has. I think Texas Tech has the ability to get past Michigan, but I'm still going with the Wolverines. I just love what Dusty May has here. I think this team, honestly, outside of that Wisconsin loss, they have looked amazing so far. Yes, they've struggled at times, and I do think they are highly volatile, but with how this bracket is shaping out right now, I think Michigan, it would be their chance to move all the way to the Elite Eight. Then we got Florida versus Iowa State, a 3 versus 2 matchup. I'm actually picking the Gators in this one. Give me Florida to move on. Then we go Michigan versus Florida, 1 versus 3 matchup to make it to the Final Four. Can Florida make it back their second straight Final Four and have a shot at winning a national championship? I don't think so. Michigan probably has the next best front court, maybe a better front court than Florida, so I got to give it to the Wolverines. Give me Michigan to make it to the Final Four. And with our last region, we're out in the East, and our 1 seed in this one is the Duke Blue Devils. Jon Scheyer just keeps getting it done with Duke, but can he make it to a Final Four? I think that's the biggest question, is if he makes it to the Final Four, though, can he make it and win a national title? Obviously, Duke versus Long Island, don't think there's much of a discussion here. Give me the Blue Devils to move on over LIU. Next, we have Villanova versus UCF. Villanova, really impressive to see what they've done now with their new head coach back in the NCAA tournament, right where they belong, versus a UCF team that honestly has a way more impressive resume than I thought they would in the Big 12. They've had some big wins, especially over Kansas and Texas Tech. That's why I'm actually going to be going with the Knights over Villanova to win and make it into the second round matchup against Duke, which would be a cool rematch of what we saw back when Zion Williamson went up against Taco Fall in that iconic NCAA tournament game back when he was in college. Now moving on, we got Tennessee versus Tulsa, the 5-12 matchup. Tulsa, really good mid-major out of the American, one of the most fun offenses to watch. Honestly, they have an incredible year so far. And Tennessee, I do not trust this Tennessee team. I mentioned it early on in the preseason when I was making my rankings. I originally didn't have them ranked, kind of got talked into getting them in the 20s, but with the way this team is playing, they have had a roller coaster of a season. Nate Ament has been one of the more inconsistent freshmen that we've seen compared to the likes of the other top names. Jacoby Gillespie, though, has been amazing. They had the injury with Cade Phillips. You also got Akpara and a couple of others, but I really like what Tulsa's doing right now, and so I'm going to be picking the Golden Hurricane to get the 12-5 upset on Tennessee and make it to the second round. Then you got Michigan State versus Troy. Michigan State, another team that just seems like they are a little volatile with the inconsistency on the offensive end. We know what this Tom Izzo defense is going to bring night in and night out. It's going to be a slugfest, but if you have a really good offensive night against Michigan State, you have the ability to win that game, and I do think Troy has the ability to do that, but I'm still picking the Spartans to move ahead here. St. John's versus either Miami or Texas. I think Miami would beat Texas in this matchup. Malik Renew having his best year in college basketball yet. The transfer from Indiana over to Miami. Jay Lucas getting Miami to the NCAA tournament in his first year would be amazing. We have a lot of first-year head coaches that have done great jobs at their new school, but if you watch the St. John's versus UConn game the other night, if St. John's plays like that, they can compete with any team in the country and they look like a top 10 to 15 team, honestly. The way that they pressured the ball, got after it, they hit timely threes. Dylan Mitchell is huge for that team. You got Zuby Ejiofor, you know what you're going to get from him. If they can just get a little good guard play from Ian Jackson or any of the other guards, like this team, I think, has a chance to go far. So I'm actually going to be picking St. John's over Miami or Texas. Doesn't matter who they face off against. Then you got Kansas versus ETSU. If Darren Peterson is playing, Kansas has the ability to win it all. That's just point blank the fact for me. Melvin Council has stepped up big when he's not out there. Trey White looks great. You got Floyd Badunga, Bryson Tiller. They actually have a really good roster there in Lawrence. It's really just, is Darren Peterson going to play? And if he plays, is he going to play both halves? Is he going to play full minutes? Because we've seen him play in the first half and then sit out with cramps in the second half. It's the one thing that scares me about this Jayhawk team, but I'm going to project like he's playing. It's the NCAA tournament. Everyone wants to play. Give me Kansas. St. Louis versus Georgia. Josh Schertz's St. Louis team is one of the most fun teams to watch out of the A-10. I really love what they're doing, and I think they're finally getting everything that they deserve. And having them as a 7 seed is crazy, but honestly, just what they've done. It's amazing to see. Georgia is the team that's kind of sliding back a little bit. One of the more fun offenses to watch. Blue Kane, Jeremiah Wilkinson, both really great players, but I just think that St. Louis has more. I like Robbie Avila and the team. They have, I believe, 6 different players that average double figures, just can kind of get you from every different place on their roster. So give me the Billikens to make it to the second round. Then Illinois versus Charleston. Illinois, one of the hottest teams in the country. I don't think anybody's beating them right now. Keaton Wagler, one of the breakout freshman guards that we have seen. The game he had against Purdue where he put up 40 plus has been amazing. He really is leading this team, and they're doing all this without their star guard, Kylan Boswell. He should be back by the NCAA tournament, and with him back, if they continue playing like they are, they're going to be a tough out for anyone. So give me Illinois. Then second round, we got Duke versus UCF. I think the Golden Knights, cool story to win and make it to the second round, but Duke, the talent that they have on that roster, Cameron Boozer, arguably the best player in college basketball right now. He's got to make it to the Sweet 16 in this one. Tulsa versus Michigan State. I think this would be a really fun matchup. And honestly, if we're having a little fun with this one, I'm going to be picking Tulsa to make it past Michigan State and get it to the Sweet 16. I think Michigan State is a team that can get upset just with the inconsistency they have on the offensive end. Like I mentioned in their matchup against Troy in this one, if they do not have a good offensive game and that the team that they're playing against is hitting shots like Tulsa can, and we've seen them in their season so far do, they can get upset. So give me the Golden Hurricane to make it and be one of my double-digit seeds to make it to the Sweet 16. St. John's versus Kansas. If St. John's plays like they play against UConn, they can beat this Kansas team. But I'm picking my projected number 1 pick, Darren Peterson, to win this one. So give me Kansas. St. Louis versus Illinois. St. Louis, again, Josh Schertz's team, Robbie Avila, really fun to watch. Illinois is one of the best, if not the best, offensive teams. They're also one of the deepest teams, and I love the depth. You don't necessarily need depth to win a Final Four game and make it to a national championship, but in my opinion, it's not bad to have in the amount of lineups and the amount of guys that they can roll out. Also, their sheer size, I think, is going to give St. Louis an issue, so give me Illinois to advance. Then we got Duke versus Tulsa. I think this is where Tulsa's run comes to an end. Give me the Blue Devils to the Elite Eight. Then we got Kansas versus Illinois. And like I mentioned, I think Illinois is one of the hottest teams in the country right now. So I have to be picking the Illini over Kansas. I think Darren Peterson makes it to the second weekend, but he's out by then. And we don't get to see that Darren Peterson-Cameron Boozer matchup, which would be a fun one to watch again. Now we got Duke versus Illinois. Who do I have going to the Final Four in this one? I'm picking the Fighting Illini to make it to the Final Four, and Keaton Wagler and co. are making it there to the final weekend of the NCAA tournament. So our Final Four teams are Arizona, Houston, Michigan, and Illinois. And in our first matchup, we have Arizona versus Houston, a Big 12 matchup between the two. And I think this would be a really good game. You got Kelvin Sampson fighting to make it back to the national title game and avenge their loss from last season, going up against the undefeated Wildcats, who, like I've mentioned time and time again, have just looked like the best team in college basketball. And honestly, if this matchup were to occur again, I think I have to go with Arizona. I just don't see how any team is stopping them right now. The weapons that they have, the depth that they have, I love it at every single position. Their size at every single position is great. And I think Jaden Bradley and Koa P are leading the Wildcats to the final game in the championship game here in this bracket prediction. Then on the other side, we have Michigan versus Illinois. Michigan, I was really high on, but the volatility that they've shown over the past couple of weeks, specifically with that Wisconsin loss, the tight game against Penn State, it really makes me a little nervous with this team. In Illinois, I am really high on what Brad Underwood has done with this team right now. Keaton Wagler, not only has he looked like the best freshman in the past couple of weeks, he's looked like the best player in the country in the past couple of weeks. And I love what they have with Kylan Boswell when he gets back. So you got Andrea Stojakovic, Ben Hummerkaus, you got the Avicic brothers, David Merkovich, all of them. They have so many weapons that they can go to. If Michigan's stopping one, they can go to 2 others. So I'm actually going to be picking Illinois to win and make it to the championship game. So you got Arizona versus Illinois, Tommy Lloyd versus Brad Underwood for the championship, And right now, I'm actually picking the Illinois Fighting Illini as my national championship to raise a banner and win March Madness if this were the bracket right now. But that wraps it up for today's video. Let me know in the comments down below your thoughts on my March Madness prediction. Do you have another team that you think would be winning in this bracket if it were to happen today? Also, if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned for more college basketball content, and we'll see you in the next one.